Hey, I am so delighted to welcome Sunny Sherman. I have admired her from afar for several years now. She's a creative force whose journey through fashion has evolved from designing to influencing, inspiring, and celebrating style with wisdom, confidence, and a lot of flair. She's known online as the old fashioned guru. Sunny brings a really fresh perspective to what it means to dress, express, and stay visible at every age. So today we're going to be talking about fashion, reinvention, influence, and the power of personal style. Welcome, Sunny.
Thank you, Diane. This is great to be here. Can't wait.
I'm so excited because I truly have admired you from afar. And I don't even remember when first saw your Instagram, but I have a first question I must start with
Yeah.
because you're so appropriately named as far as the Sunny part. Is Sunny your real name or was that a nickname?
It's actually it was a it's not, I wasn't born. It's not on my birth certificate.
I love it because you are Sunny.
But I feel Sunny, In fact, the original Sunny is my niece, my sister's oldest child, and I was a fine artist. I'm a painter by training. I have a fine arts degree. And so when I was painting, and I was represented by a gallery in New York at a very young age. And but I had to make a living, and somebody approached me to do these hand painted T-shirts. This was the 70s. And they said, but we can't use your name. You can't commercialize your name as an artist. It's like you can do this other business, because I was going to do these hand painted T-shirts. And so I had to come up with a name. And I couldn't think of any name other than I loved the name Sunny that my sister named her firstborn. So she said, well, use that. It's fine. And no one ever thought it would be anything, go anywhere. So I use Sunny for making clothes, and my given name is Kathy, who made art. So, long story short, and maybe we'll get into it later, but Sunny sort of took over my life. And so in the design trade, in the garment center rag trade, I was Sunny. And so it's been 53 years, maybe 54 years that I've been Sunny. I never legally changed it, but even, my husband met me as Sunny. I mean,
Oh, I love it. Now, wait a second. You said in the design, it's fine artist trained, and then you
Mhm.
said in the design trade. Let's talk about those early years.
Oh my goodness. Uh, 22. I was 22, and I was newly married to my first husband, who was an actor. And somebody had to make a living, somebody had to pay the rent, and I was too bourgeois to, wait until, I needed to know that there was money coming in.
Mhm.
So I was approached, because I was a painter and an artist. I was approached to do this line. Let's go into business. Let's make the painted T-shirts. And I said, okay. What did I know? 22. So I got into designing these T-shirts, and I would draw on the T-shirts and sign my name, and I tie-dyed them. This was the early 70s. And so that's really how I started in the design business. I had no training in fashion, other than I always loved fashion as a
Oh,
kid. I mean, I was always the first to to wear the short skirts, first to wear the bell bottoms out to here, first to wear whatever was going on. I was on it. I was on top of it, and even at a very young age, anticipating. And that's really has served me well through my commercial career or design career, because designing clothing and running businesses is as creative as making fine art. It's just a different kind of creativity.
tell me
So
about how that design career unfolded. Did you go beyond the t-shirts?
I went way beyond the t-shirts. And well,
Okay.
I mean, you're making these t-shirts. What's the obvious thing? They got to wear something on the bottom. So 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 I didn't know how to make a pattern. So it was at the time when, I don't know if you remember, but these French jeans were coming into vogue, and you had to like cross your legs to get them on. I mean, it was like,
Lay on the ground, suck it in your stomach, and maybe you could get the zipper up. There wasn't much stretch in those jeans.
no stretch. So I literally laid on the ground, traced out my body, my legs, and I made a pattern for these pull-on pants. No zipper, no nothing, pull-on pants that you also had to like cross your legs to get into. Very sexy, very hot. I mean, I didn't know any better. I just, I figured the French jeans were hot, I would do these. And men loved them. Women loved them. They were tie-dyed to match the T-shirts. And it was really a lot of fun.
Oh my
And
gosh.
that's how my design career. And then one thing led to another. From the pants, I made a skirt. Again, I made a circle, cut a line out of it, wrapped it around my body, and that was my skirt. And I made a career out of not knowing any better,
Mhm.
because I didn't have formal training as a designer in the garment business, in the fashion world. Uh, I did a lot of things that you don't do. You don't do this, you don't do that. Well, I didn't know not to do it, so I did it. I mean, I took my T-shirts. I didn't know where to sell them. I didn't know how that worked. I walked into stores. I remember my first customer was Ann Taylor, when Ann Taylor was one store in New Haven.
Oh
And,
my gosh.
I walked in there, and they bought them, all these little stores. Do you remember Henry Lair?
Yeah.
Remember Henry Lair? Henry, loved Henry. I was walking up Third Avenue, and I had my T-shirts with me, and I, walked in there, and I said, "Can I show some?" I didn't know who he was. I showed somebody my T-shirts, and he's happened to be there, and he takes me out onto the street and says, "Show me what you got," on the sidewalk.
Yeah.
So I'm showing him my T-shirts. He bought them on the spot, and it was it was great. The T-shirts and the pull-on pants, and it was a very unorthodox way to work. I walked into Bloomingdale's. I walked into Bendel's. I walked into women's wear. That was sort of cool because, again, I don't know what you're supposed to do here. I just did. So I walked into women's wear, and I said, "Can I show somebody my T-shirts?" And they were having a meeting, and eventually somebody came and looked at what I had, and the next day I was in women's wear. It
Oh
was
my gosh. I'm thinking of two expressions. Ignorance is bliss and fortune favors the bold. Which one do you relate to more?
uh, I think maybe the latter. I don't know, although being ignorant has served me well over the years.
No, because when you don't know how the business works.
Yeah, right.
I was talking to someone the other day, and they were meeting with a, a company that's got well over $1 billion valuation in the world of fashion. And they were
Mhm.
like, well, I'm going to tell them they need a lot of work. I'm like, okay, you can do that. Well, believe it or not, the person walked away with a contract to
Yeah,
consult. And I'm like, that's the ignorance of not understanding how big the company was and the boldness of just
right.
saying, I think they need to be cooler.
I think that's great. Well,
It
I think
sounds like you.
the brilliance of Nike's slogan is
Right.
something that has served me well my entire life. Just do it. There are
Mm-hmm.
so many reasons not to do something, and it's something I counsel, when I speak with young people, women especially. They wanna go into business. "Oh, I don't have this, I don't have this, should I wait for this?" I said, "Just do it. If you wait for the right time." Guess it's like having a baby. I never had one, but they tell me there's never a right time to have children.
Yeah.
You just do it. Yeah.
Between just do it and the other one I loved was the FedEx one, ship it.
Oh,
Because, because it's along the same lines when it gets right down to it. Because so many times everyone's waiting for something to be perfect. It's like,
right.
it needs to be perfect. It needs to be exact. I mean, we're going to get to Instagram later, But I mean, my fucking Instagram is a disaster, and I'm the first one to admit to it. If there's no theme to it, there's no aesthetic, as people say. I'm not fashionable. I just post what I think, when I feel like, and I look at it, and it's like, my daughter will say, "Mom, that just looks like a train wreck." No,
I
see,
I
yeah.
have to disagree. I have to disagree, Diane. It's not a train
But
wreck at all.
some people have themes. Every other one is a something. We look at a
Mm,
page, and it's a grid. You can tell their
yeah,
theme.
perfectly laid out color-wise, composition-wise, right, yeah,
I
yeah.
mean, I tried a grid once, and I think I lasted 3 days. I'm like, I can't keep this. But so in those early days, I'm curious of when you're designing, um, how did you start manufacturing? Because I
Uh,
know there are a lot of people on this who watch this that would love to know, how do you get to those next levels?
well, in the beginning, I bought the T-shirts. I bought ready-made T-shirts, and I tie-dye them, literally grit dye, in a bowl. I tied the colors and then painted hand painted them afterwards. Now, when I'm saying I walked into all these places and they would buy a few dozen of this or six of this or whatever. I walked into an open call at the Limited. Okay, Limited thousands,
Yeah.
time hundreds of stores maybe, I don't remember in the 70s. But anyway, I walked into the Limited and they loved them. They said, "I'll take." It was 600 pieces. I said, "Are you kidding me? 600 pieces. What am I supposed to do? When do you need them? Like next year?" "Oh no, we like them in, I don't know, it was 6 weeks or something." I'm thinking, oh my Lord. So I went to the schools, like Parsons and those guys, and I got students to come and I made a stencil. So I took these T-shirts and we stretched them over a piece of plexiglass and shined a light under them. And I had all these students just drawing over my lines and signing my name. And that's how I produced 600 pieces in, literally a few weeks. So
Oh my gosh.
when they say necessity is the mother of invention, I work well under pressure.
So what came next in this
What
fashion
came
career?
next? What came next? Okay, next, trying to think. Okay, next came, uh, okay, I grew out, I mean, I grew out of the T-shirts a little bit and I started making clothes, real clothes. And I used jersey. I used, um, God, it was, I guess, a cotton jersey. It was a beautiful fabric with a sheen to it. And I started working on my body. And really, what I was doing, I started with a bodysuit and I added skirts and pants and other pieces. Does that sound familiar? But I was doing this in the 70s.
Wow.
So I
Did
started, and
right on yourself. Were your
I
own
would
fit
drape
model.
them. Yep, I was my own fit model. I still am.
Yeah.
And so I made, all these, I mean, really, they were fabulous drapey garments. And I finally bought a wolf form, and used a mannequin to drape on. But that's in that again. What did I do? I worked in cotton jersey. I worked in velvet.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
again, would take the collection around to all the stores. And I was very, very fortunate and very blessed to have, very good timing, and a product that people seem to want. And so I found myself with windows all going down Fifth Avenue from Saks, Bonwood Teller. Remember Bonwoods? Remember Altman's? God. We used to laugh, years ago, about the thousands of stores that there were to sell, and that, maybe, someday I bet you it'll be down to two. I mean, I wish I weren't right.
Yeah.
But anyway, at that point, I had windows and, all along Fifth Avenue, ads in New York Times. I was listed in women's wear. On my page was Yves Saint Laurent, Zoran. I don't think it was Karl Lagerfeld yet. I know it was Yves Saint Laurent. Anyway, it was the Best of America issue. I'm thinking, oh my God, this
And what
was
was the brand at this point?
Sonny Lee. With
Sun.
Sonny Lee for Prism Designs, but, basically the brand was Sonny Lee. But
Yeah.
at that point, my partner, the woman that I started this business with, decided that she would take off with the money in the company. So I was left with, what do I? This was a very, very uh, expensive graduate school, and yet the best graduate school I could ever have attended.
Now, I
Uh,
always say education is expensive and a good education is very
Very
expensive.
and
And
this
those
was a good. This
come
was
after I left traditional schools.
yeah, yeah. It's true.
Wow.
Yeah, it's true. But, anyway, so, I was left with these orders. I was left with these windows to produce for, and I was like, "Oh my goodness, what am I gonna do?" So at that point, once I started making clothes, I found factories in the city, and I started hanging out in the factory. I lived in the factories, and I was very, very fortunate to find a mentor. His name was Artie Rivera,
Mhm.
and he taught me everything about manufacturing, how clothes are made, how things cost, why things cost what they did. And I was like a sponge. I soaked it all up, and I was a very good student. And to this day, I can look at a garment and tell you, it should cost this, it takes this, it's, blah, blah, blah. But that was my beyond graduate school. That was my doctorate in the business. So I learned the business in the factory. So it was a very different kind of education than most designers have. I
It-
never went to school for design. I was an artist. I was a painter, and I approached my clothing as art. I saw everything as art. And as my career progressed, and I did produce that season on my own. I can't believe I lived through it. And I realized I, could not do this business by myself. I had to close the business because, and so I had to get a job. Now, I never had a job. I never worked for anybody. I didn't know the garment center, but I went to see a headhunter, and and God bless her, sent me on all these interviews, and it was very interesting. The companies that were hiring were making blouses. I never made a blouse. Somebody talked about a Revere. I said, "What is this? The copperware, Paul Revere? I don't know what's a Revere." Happens to be the inside of a shirt. Anyway, so I knew nothing, but I had very good instincts, a very good gut, and that's something that you can't teach that. It's something you have, and most successful people, no matter whether they're in the design business or any kind of business, they have a good gut and they know to trust it. So I took a job with a small shirt company, blouse company, and they said, "Well, we need." We just need like 10 bottoms to go with our blouses because it was getting to be market week. I didn't know what market week either because I just went around by myself. But anyway, they had market week. So I had, I don't know, a few weeks to produce these bottoms to go with their blouses. So I get there, and this is, I'm it's September 10th, I believe, somewhere around there. And market in those days was October. Now I don't even know when it is. But I get there, they didn't have any blouses. They didn't have a piece of anything. I'm looking at myself thinking, oh my goodness. Okay, I'm going to have to design blouses. I don't remember how I did it. I just remember I did it. And it was, I remember going on a plane to the Limited, my friends, the Limited, but this was, I think, I don't remember who I saw. It wasn't Wexford, but I saw the buyer at the Limited with one of the owners of the company. And when we took out these blouses that I sort of threw together, and they, in those days, again, this is now 1980, 79 or 80, people would come into your showroom and they would write. They would give you an order in the showroom. That changed, and about 10 years later, never would see that again. But anyway, I'm on the, we go into the Limited, we fly out to Columbus, and he gives us an order, and I'll never forget this. We're sitting on the plane. I'm sitting there with the partner that I went with, counting the order, counting the pieces, counting the dollars. It was over $1 million, that order. Was like, I mean, it was like,
Oh
oh,
my gosh.
I mean, it's like, I still to this day, I mean, I think about that, and it's like, it was really, really, really something.
What a moment.
And in those days, I had very short dark hair. My original, oh, this is all original now. Anyway, very short spiky hair. I wore black eyeliner, kohl rimmed eyes, and it was very, very 80s,
Uh,
very, very punk. We wore leather, the whole thing. And I designed these blouses, were these polyester blouses with lace collars and bows and like stuff that, I wouldn't be caught dead in. But they but they were but
Guys that the clubs would have.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Teenage.
probably.
That would have been 1980s club gear for the guys.
Just sort of few sparkles on them. I had a little sequin here and there. It's like, but somehow I knew I knew what women wanted to wear.
Mhm. Wow.
And I was able to, I mean, people would laugh because they would look at me in the showroom and my leather and my chains and the spiky hair and the black eyes, with these lovely polyester blouses, little Peter Pan collars.
Uh-huh.
And, it just, that took me into a whole new direction in my career. And, it was great. And that became, I did very well for that company, and it became time to move on, and I did, and that company, went out of business not too long after that, but I became very close with one of the other partners, and we ended up opening what would be my signature business, which was Sunny Lee. So that was in the early, let's see, that was in mid-80s.
You know, I'm realizing now how we first connected. I had a shirt on.
Hmm.
You said to me, I need that shirt. And I had gotten it at a thrift shop.
Oh, okay.
It was like 5 years ago
Yeah.
or whatever many years ago when you noticed it on me. I'd gotten it at a thrift shop and you said, what's the label on it? And I said, somebody cut the label out. I think that was our first exchange.
And it was I said, "I think it's mine."
I wish I had it on today.
It's funny.
I
I'm sorry?
so go ahead.
Oh, no, that problem was it the pleated one? The crushed pleated,
Yeah.
it was yeah, I popularized that method of crushing. I started with silk. I was in China, and I saw this silk, this crushed silk there, and this parachute, this really lightweight fabric. And until then, in the market here, there was washable silk. It was from Go Silk, and it was a very beautiful, heavy, tailored-ish, a much more tailored kind of a look to this, and the colors were very muted. And so I got this idea, I'm gonna make garments, I'm gonna make tops, bottoms, whatever, in this parachute silk, and I'm gonna dye them in a rainbow of colors. And that's what I did, and, there was nobody doing that at the time, and you would walk into my showroom, and you would see on the wall literally a rainbow of 12 colors, and it was so dazzling for the buyers to see, and it was so new for the buyers to see, and, that became part of, my next wave of business success. I've had a number of home runs in my career. I'm really very, very, very blessed.
Let's talk about some of your home runs before we move into your social media home running. Tell,
Well,
tell me what you would say were some of your home runs that you stuck out all the tough times to hit those home runs. You got a
uh,
lot of base hits, but once in a while you got the home run.
yeah, well, I would say this the washer silk was the first one, and in the bright colors, and in the very soft, fluid, flowy designs, and um, oh gosh, I remember when we first started shipping it. I would get calls. It was February, and shipping this tissue. I mean, like paper, fabric, and we would get calls from these stores. I remember there was a call from a woman in Montana. They couldn't see out the window for the snow. She said, but man, the stuff is just like flying out of the shelves. But she says, it's very wrinkled. I said, yes, it is. Please don't iron it. And, I went from that. What else? What did I do? Oh gosh. Uh, well, my two biggest home runs probably were the washer silk, the lightweight paper silk, and then the crushed polyester, which is the blouse
Yeah.
that you had, which, I mean, went from, literally, mimicking the silk in polyester so that you could wash it. I mean, you could wash the silk too, but you had to twist it and, do a whole thing with it. With the polyester, it held the pleat.
It's
So
well,
it's you can't kill it. I see things that I made in the '80s on people today. I mean, it's like, oh my gosh. Uh, but that was so from the crushed, I went to what we called a release pleat. So it was this pleated, bodice all the way, and then at the peplum it would stop and
yeah,
flare out, and it was so flattering.
yeah.
Um, so
I'm
I
a
did,
sellers too.
yeah.
I'm a vintage buyer.
Um,
And there's certain things that I just think you don't see now. They're cool. They had
yeah.
it. At
But they
least
come
have it.
everything comes around, it's like what I laugh because there isn't a whole lot in my career that, was doing. I've been making clothes now for 50 years. There's not a lot that hasn't been done. There's always a new twist. There's always somebody that's got a new take on it, but it's all, it's just we all just rehash the same stuff. And trends now, it's like by the time you get out of the store, the trend's gone. You get home, it's back again. So,
It's so funny. About probably 10 years ago, I did every, I just do major get rid of it all. And
yeah.
this major get rid of it all because I seem to wear the exact same clothes over and over again, no matter what I buy. And,
Yes.
and I had bought these when I had an investor relations business, and in 1997 I started it, and I said if I make it through my first year, I'm going to buy. It's actually my first 6 months. I'm going to buy myself these two pairs of Roberto Cavalli print pants I really wanted.
Oh, fabulous.
And I just said to my daughter, we were walking on the street. And she's like, "Mom, did you notice those print pants? Aren't they the coolest?" I'm like, "Gee, I wish I was mine. I gave them away about 5 years ago." She said, "Who?" I'm like, "Roberto Cavalli." She goes, "Gave away." Like, you only keep stuff for so long, or you need like an apartment for the storage.
Right. But the minute you give it away, you said,
Exactly.
oh, my goodness, why did I do that? Because you wanted her, like your
Yeah.
daughter would say, it's like, I know.
Yeah.
It's crazy how that works.
That's what I say. Never watch me for trends. If I'm buying a new iPhone, trust me, the new one's coming out in about 2 days. But I would have owned the old one. If it's an outfit, the new style. If it's the skinny jeans, bell bottoms are sure to be coming back.
Sounds like me in the supermarket line. If I'm in that line, don't go. Totally.
So let's just get into the 90s and 2000s before we move into current time. What was going on with you in the 90s and 2000s?
Oh gosh, and then
Early 2000s, we'll say.
yeah, well, My partner and I built Sunny Lee into a mega mass market brand. We were high-end mass market. We didn't sell, um, Saks, let's say, or Neiman's, but we sold just about every other department store and specialty store in the country, and some of the ones that were even, not in the better tier that we were in, we would do private label for. So, Sunny Lee was built as a uh, soft separates, I guess you would call it. Sportswear, soft sportswear. It became very print driven because as a painter, I related to the prints, and each garment had to be, a work of art. And I really thought of that each garment. I mean, we did in our price point, which was, I say, was called better, but I don't know, today it would be like in the basement. But I did French seams. Do you know what a French seam is? French seams mean that the inside is as beautiful as the outside, that the seams were turned and rolled on the inside so that there were no frayed edges. There was no, I mean, I have to say, it was really, really beautiful. And we developed factories in China. They were able to do this. And I remember seeing a very high-end designer skirt out of the same fabric that I was using. It was a silk georgette, and mine was made so much better for like a fraction of the cost. But that was the difference between, being a designer name, a branded business, and my business where I actually had to sell clothes. You have
Yeah.
the people that don't have to sell because they're a name, they want that cachet, that brand, and then you have the businesses like mine where we had to sell clothes, lots of
It's
eh
so funny when you mention the French seams. My sister, who's 10 years older than me, she can sew. And when our daughter was little, like 3.5, 4, and you're into that princess phase,
yeah.
I made her this. I made her these dresses with my horrific sewing, like using Velcro because I couldn't figure out how to use a zipper. Put a zipper.
Velcro's great, I love Velcro.
Oh my gosh, she wanted to wear those dresses everywhere. And, I'm like, okay, whatever. She's, 3.5. I'm a little embarrassed because you can see the threads that I forgot to cut off, the messy lace. Then one day, my sister sends her a dress. The French seams, the inside of that dress looked as pretty as
Oh,
the outside. And I said to her, Linda, I said, some of these dresses that I made have gone from like the pre-ball, and now you're the Cinderella ball. She was like cleaning the cinders. There is an art to a beautiful piece of a beautiful design.
there is, and there's an art to making it, and,
Yeah.
you mentioned, no, zippers. When I did my first collections as Sunny Lee, the one where before I got screwed and had to close the business, I never used a zipper. Everything was, I guess I did use buttons, but I never used a zipper. Everything was soft, everything was drapey, oversized. So when I think of zippers, you mentioned zippers. That was
I
part
did
of.
know that when you said you laid down and then you made them out of a tight fabric that you could pull on. I'm like, okay, that had to have some stretch.
You know what? It didn't. There was no stretch to that fabric. I mean, they fit like I mean, more than a glove. I mean, but
Oh
literally,
gosh.
you had to like to get them on. I was a big hit in Fire Island too.
Too funny. Okay. Now we're into 2016, 2017, 2018. Sometime around then, Sunny gave herself a third name, the old fashioned guru. Tell
Well,
me about that.
okay, it should be so obvious. I was old. I mean, I was in my mid-60s, mid to late 60s. Okay, not really old, but I figured I could get away with old, and I wanted to use old. And today I still my goal is to make the word old. It's not a pejorative. It's good. It's good to be old. Embrace your I always was very, very open about my age. I thought it was so important for younger people to see that women, as we age, we don't lose it. We don't become invisible. You can, but you don't.
That's
Yes, yes. And so I wanted to trade and capitalize on the fact that old. I was older than most of the people when I started doing this. There weren't a lot of women in their 60s, let alone 70s and 80s now, that were doing this. So I wanted to really embrace the old part of me. So old, and what was my career based on? Fashion. I'm My whole life has been in fashion. And then the guru was, well, I know a thing or two about fashion, and I know a thing or two about fit, and I know a thing or two about what women want. So old fashioned guru, not old fashioned, but old fashioned guru. And I think it fits me very well.
I think it fits you beautifully, and it's got that slight bit of the double entendre to it, and I just love it. I
Well,
love the name.
thank
And
you. Thank you.
what does that represent to you today when you think about what you're going to post and what you're going to share with your growing audience that's very passionate and loves to see what you showcase because you've got a lot of style.
Oh, thank you.
And you went with a spunky new haircut, which was a whole new shift
Oh,
for you.
oh my god. Oh my god. I
I
look
love
at
it.
it, it's like, "Who is this? Who is this girl?" It's
She's
like, it
very
was
sexy and cool.
thank you. It wasn't
Same
planned.
one who wore the leather and the punk hairdo.
You know what? You're right. You're right. You're right. Except I didn't plan this. I didn't set out to join my beautiful silver sisters. I never in fact, I thought I would be blonde forever. I loved the long, straight blonde hair with the bangs, threw it up and, very boho, very, very fun, very, sexy. And then my hair was so damaged from all the years of
That's
processing
the
it.
reason I stopped. The damage. I said, I'm not going to have any care if I keep coloring it blonde because I
Uh,
want platinum.
yeah, well, I was so platinum. I mean, the blonde part that when I started cutting it because I had to get rid of the all that stuff. I said, "Wow, this doesn't look really different." I'm gonna just. I think I'm gonna try and let it go and just see what happens because I had no idea. I hadn't seen my hair in since probably my early 30s. Uh, and so, yeah, so and I'm fortunate. I mean, this is my hair. It's curly. It's curly. This is I get up in the morning, I spritz it with a little water and good to go. So,
It's a great look.
oh,
Now, besides showcasing this new hairdo and new look, how do you choose your outfits? What do you say in the morning when you wake up?
what do I say? Um, I don't, it's funny. I don't say I want to feel a certain way or I want to feel, I want to represent myself in a certain way unless I have an engagement that I have to go to. Then I really think about it. But I get up in the morning and truthfully, I put on probably, and if you really look at my post, you'll see I wear the same thing all the time. I wear the same jeans. I mean, I'm wearing them now. These are 13 jeans. Am I allowed to say that? Uh, I wear them. I mean, I have 3 or 4 standbys that I wear. If I'm not thinking, that's what I'll put on. Now I have maybe 50 pair of jeans. I mean, and I love trying new things. I love I'm all about the new. My whole business, my whole life was about new. What's next? So I'm very trend oriented, trend driven. I like to try new things, but then in the end, I go back to what makes me feel comfortable and feel like me. So, and I think most women like to feel comfortable in what they're wearing. So I don't really, when I get up in the morning, I don't know, it depends. I don't think about it. I really just, I'm drawn to, this pair, or maybe I'll say, well, gosh, I've worn them every day for the last, 10 days. I think I'll try another silhouette today. Or, Uh, um, but I know it's funny, a lot of women, and there is a movement about being very intentional in what you wear, and, thinking about it, and that's very empowering, I think, to a lot of women. But, I mean, I'm intentional in what I'm wearing, but it's because I wear the same thing all the time.
That would be me on Sam test.
I mean, I look at I love shoes, I love bags, I
Oh,
have a
shoes are different.
I'm sorry? Shoes,
Shoes different.
but in the summer, I wear flip-flops. Rubber flip-flops, like, almost every day. Well, this year, flip-flops, thong sandals are like a big trend, so I actually have some nicer leather ones that I would but I wear this but again, I'll wear the same ones every
Mhm.
day. I keep it really easy. My style is very simple. Um, Different with this hair, I find. Very different with this hair than, with the blonde, but this is more harkens more to my work style when, and I was only blonde towards the end of that, but I've very minimal, very I'm very much into the lines of clothing. I mean, I'll buy a shirt and somebody will say, "Well, why'd you buy that shirt?" Well, because the length of the armhole, the drape of the armhole, the length of the sleeve was just perfect, or the pocket was up here instead of down here. And I really liked that line. And yet it's a very simple shirt.
Yeah.
So I'm really drawn to that, to the artistry of the garment, of the clothing. So,
That's, I think, what always attracts me. Our son just graduated from FIT and he's got a brand and it's doing well. And he mentioned
yeah.
the technical design. He goes, "Well, always focused on the technical design." I said, "Can you describe that to me?" And I realized after he described it, it's exactly what gets my attention. It's those details. Like, is something different about the pocket? I mean, any shirt can have a pocket, or is something different on how the collar is done, or, you know, the pleats, or whatever it is, which is probably why I liked your shirts. I had never seen, you have wrinkled stuff. You don't have to iron it, and it looks great. You can pull it out of a suitcase, and it looks great. Yeah.
You know, a lot of it too is how we wear our clothes. When you speak about, or I mentioned intention, not necessarily in picking out what I'm wearing. I sort of do by instinct, but it's intentional how we present ourselves in our posture, in
Mm.
the way we wear that particular bit of clothing. Now, I mean, I get a lot of people, they come up to me and they go, "Oh, you missed a button on your shirt." And I say, "No, I didn't." That's how I wear that's how I wear my shirts. I'm not looking for something to be different just to be different, but I like to solve problems. And I am my body shape is I have a very, very short torso and very long legs,
Mm-hmm.
which is great for certain things and not so great for others. So what happens is my hip area, that's the broadest part of my body, and it's very close to my boobs. So I have to be very, I have to be careful when I wear garments that are straight across, because all it does is emphasize my short torso, and it makes me look much wider than I am. So I'm always looking. I always button my shirts. I button them up in different kinds of ways to draw the eye up. I'm always looking to draw the eye up instead of straight across here at my widest part. So, uh, you
That's a
know, it's
good tip.
good.
Good
Believe
tip.
me, it's funny, and like the half tuck. People say, "Oh, I don't get the half tuck. Why do the half tuck?" Because if you wear something that goes straight across your hips are gonna look ginormous. Now, if you don't care about that, fine. But for me, I'm very sensitive to this part of my body, so I'm always again looking for ways to draw the eye away from the fact that it's, very short up there and very wide.
Every time I do the half tuck, I have to explain to my husband, I learned that on set. He's like, this, I'm going to tuck this in and nothing else. I'm like, stylists, and they're more they're getting employed, so they must know what they're talking about. It's like, tuck in your whole shirt.
It's true. Or button the whole sugar. It's like, oh, it's very funny. It's very funny. But once you start doing this, like sometimes women will, they'll ask me for advice or, I'll help style them. And, it's like, oh, I can't wear that. I can't do that. It's like, what do you mean you can't do it? Look, why? Why can't you do it? Why would you feel self-conscious in something that's flattering and not feel self-conscious in something that looks terrible? Yeah.
Exactly. When you're making your videos, what's on your mind in your videos these days? You're definitely breaking the rules as to what 74 can look
Oh,
like.
I was 75 last week, honey. I turned 75 last Friday.
You are my wow. Love it.
And at 75, I'm doing almost and wearing almost everything that I was doing when I was, in my 20s and 30s, maybe a little differently. But that's the thing. We don't change. In here doesn't change. This has changed.
Yeah.
That's changed, but not who we are. Not, if I felt sexy at 25, I'm going to feel sexy at 75. I mean,
Mm,
we talk about there's no expiration date on
yeah.
that kind of stuff. And I think that's one of my passions is helping women to understand and to live that kind of life where they are vibrant and full and enjoying and embracing their age, and that's, I say, it's embracing, aging with joy and with style, because joy is that's that's ageless. In fact, it's
Mm,
the best anti-aging thing that I can think of. You have joy. It's like a face that's lit up, that's smiling. You say, what do I what do I concentrate with my videos? It's like, make sure you're smiling. Make sure you smile, otherwise you're gonna not the most flattering. I mean, because the truth is we age. We all age. We have wrinkles, we have sagging. Do I like it? I don't like it, but I like who I am. I like the life I've lived, and I don't really wanna alter that. I mean, so you live with it, but there are tricks that you can do. You can smile. Takes 10 years. Look at you. You have a gorgeous smile.
well, thank you. I
Mm.
grew up with a mom that always pointed out smiling, and I don't think I was a smiler anyway. But it's
No,
funny, your thing you said about, style, we really don't change the who we are. And a few years ago, I had done, uh, Bloomberg had done an interview with me. And one of the questions was, how do you define your style or what do you think of when you're getting dressed? And I'm like, well, 1980s rock star. And I did not expect that to see print, but of course it did. And I had to live it down from there on out. But for Christmas this year, our son, I'm opening up the presents. He's gotten me a vintage Misfits t-shirt and an AC/DC t-shirt, like serious vintage that he went to one of the vintage shops and found.
Oh, wow.
I guess some things never change and it's probably okay that my son knows, you know, I'm 43 years older than him and I'm still going to be wearing those t-shirts probably the day I die.
Well, I hope so. I hope so. Well,
And
that keeps
so
me.
I don't want the remake. No, no, no. I want the one that some kid in ninth grade in the 1970s was so excited to wear the next day to school because they showed everybody, this is what I did last night. I went to this Led Zeppelin concert.
Oh, I think that's awesome. I love it. I
Oh,
love it. I love
it's
it.
so funny.
But it's true. We are who we are. And, we can grow, we change to certain degrees, but we don't change who we are. I think maybe what changes with a lot of people is their acceptance of who we are. And I find as I age anyway, I'm much more accepting of who I am and what I want, what I like, what I don't want. I'm I don't have time for the stuff that I don't want, because I want so much.
Yeah, exactly.
They
Yeah,
say you
but
want less when you get older, but that's not really true.
oh
And
my,
I don't just mean physical things, but it's you shift, you change, you grow, and that's part of the beauty of aging, and part of that journey. It's like I embrace aging. I embrace every step of the way. People say, "How can why are you so happy all the time?" What's I said, "I'm happy because I'm here." I said, "You were on this journey." I said, "The end result's not so great, but until that point, I'm going to enjoy every second." And I want to impart that to my family, my followers. I love my girls and the guys too,
mhm,
uh, because we're experiencing this together. I didn't have role models when I was in my 20s and 30s of fabulous. I mean, there were a few fabulous women. There always are, but you didn't have this movement where everybody is uh, expressing themselves in a more natural way, and they are, I think, achieving. I don't know, women, yeah, they are achieving more because there are more opportunities,
mhm.
and so excuse me. So yes, we are oh, very dry.
Yeah, I think you're
Mm.
right. And
We are
I,
doing
it,
more. Sorry,
it's
go ahead.
it's a great time to be alive
It is.
for us women, and to have people like yourself that are embracing the moment and showcasing it and showing that every age can be cool. I just love it.
That's
I honor
yeah.
it,
And
and
that's the key. Every age. There is something about every age
yeah.
that is wonderful and cool, and you just have to allow yourself to live it.
These interviews always go too fast, but I'm already envisioning another one with you, Sunny.
Oh, I could talk for hours.
We
This has
could
been
have. We
wonderful.
could have.
This has
Well,
been wonderful. I so appreciate the opportunity to speak with you and your audience, and get a little bit of my views on aging and women, and get it out
much.
there. Yeah. I'm like,
Thank you so much. Sunny's staying on with me. We're going to be moving over to the green room. I'm Diane Brusella. This has been the Silver Disobedience Perception Dynamics podcast. I've been speaking with Sunny Sherman, a design, fashion, just, really cool person. What else can I say? Who you may know by Instagram as Old Fashioned Guru. There are going to be all kinds of links to follow her below, and I highly recommend you do so because she is inspiring. She's motivating. She always makes me smile, and she kicks up a mean outfit. So, you need ideas? Definitely check her out.
thank you so much, Diane.
Okay, we're moving on to take care. Everybody, hit subscribe. Hit subscribe, subscribe, subscribe.